I'm also leading some projects in expanding the community globally, so in Latin America and Africa, and PI on projects involved with training and supporting growth of this project. So who knows what Bioconductor is, or who has heard of Bioconductor? Okay, just a couple of hands, so you're in the right room then. So Bioconductor is a project that has strong roots in R, so R programming language. R was the first open source programming language for statistics. So it was founded by these two guys here, Robert Gentleman and Ross Hega. And back in the 90s, they wanted to develop a programming language where they could teach statistics to students at the university. It actually started in Auckland in New Zealand, because at that time it was proprietary software that was available, and it was closed source. So they wanted something that would statisticians could use, freely available, and also to make it collaborative, that others could build on their work. And it was really successful. So it superseded the project that the statistical programming language that was the proprietary one at the time. And a large reason for that was because they made it open source. So this is just a timeline of some of the milestones of that R development. So they made it available by FTP originally, so anyone could get the code, and they started a mailing list. And this mailing list helped to grow the community around R. And yeah, so in 2000, then the first version of R was released. And then at this time, biology was also seeing massive growth. So largely thanks to the Human Genome Project. I don't know if you've heard of that, but that was a massive project, billion-dollar project that was started in the 90s and went on for over 10 years to sequence a human genome. And this drove then new technologies being developed, and these technologies were generating massive amounts of data. So people needed programming languages to be able to analyze them. So this confluence of high throughput biology being available that needed new statistical methods to be able to analyze it. This coincided with the first open source statistical language being made available, which was R, and this led to the birth of Bioconductor. So Bioconductor was founded by Robert Gentleman, so one of the co-founders of R also founded Bioconductor. It started in 2001. And what it was to provide an open source R package repository where anyone in the world, in academia, in industry, could create software for analyzing different types of biological data and make it available for others to use and build on. So they introduced this repository. It had version control, SVN originally, and also checks on the package. So they were big on making sure that the code was good quality. And it also introduced these specialized data classes for interoperability. Like we hear lots of about interoperability now, and this was part of the foundations of Bioconductor. So there's special classes that enable inputs and outputs from the packages to work together. And so this became like the de facto repository for statisticians publishing new biological methods. And this is a screenshot of the original website, or the first website they had back in 2002. And fast forwarding to today, so a screenshot of the current version of the website. So it's now up to version 3.20. It's strongly community driven. It encourages users to also become developers. So people who are using packages who may see, oh, there's a gap, this package doesn't do this, they're encouraged to then develop their own package or to build on packages that exist. And it's now got over 2,000 packages that have been contributed providing tools for all types of biological analysis and visualization. And the downloads are well over 1 million a year. And just to explain a bit about why does it matter. So following on from what I was saying about the biology growing and the data that we're generating growing massively. So beyond the Human Genome Project, we're now able to analyze biological systems in massive amounts of detail. So this image is just showing different parts of the human molecular biology we now have ability to measure. So genomes, epigenomes, so the transcriptomes, proteomes, microbiomes, and all these giving massive amounts of data and data points. And these help us to do things like understanding basis of disease or developing better treatments, new biomarkers, and not just in biomedical applications, but also in biodiversity, agriculture, marine. And so this continued growth in the amount of data has meant we continue to need these new statistical methods and user-friendly tools. So this is where the area where Bioconductor fits, and this is just a plot showing how Bioconductor has become essential software. So here we're looking at, on the x-axis, a timeline, 2012 across 2022. And on the y-axis, we have the number of mentions of software in the literature, in biomedical literature. So it's a log scale there. And so this image is from the CZI, Chan Zuckerberg Initiative. They did an analysis of software mentions, and that's in their impact report that I have a DOI there. And what this is showing is that these are the top 10 most cited biomedical software in the research literature, and 4 out of these 10 are Bioconductor. So one is Bioconductor itself, a lot of people reference the project, and then 3 of them are individual packages that have become like the standard or the go-to for particular types of biological analysis. So it's really had a wide application. And this is showing the different areas Bioconductor software is used in research. So these colored blocks are representing different fields. So I'm just going to name a couple. So the purple one is molecular and cell biology genetics. That's the big purple one on the left. But there's there's immunology, there's neuroscience, cancer, a lot of biomedical, but also things like crop science is the pinky red one there in the middle. So these are all papers that are using Bioconductor. What areas are they carrying out research in? And just a couple of examples, like what does that actually mean when we're talking about, oh, it's used in these papers, what are they doing? So this is a research study using Bioconductor software that was using it to help identify molecular subtypes of pancreatic cancer. And this can then feed into understanding the disease better and designing better treatments. And so not just biomedical, so this is an example from agriculture. So this is a research study using software in its understanding of wheat genome, so you can design better crops. Okay, I want to talk a bit more about Bioconductor itself. So as it's grown from the founder and a few people using it into this big community. So what does that look like? How is it governed? So this image is representing the Bioconductor community. So what we have is this core team in the middle. So they are a group based in the US who look after that repository, so where the software packages are submitted to. So they run the build system. So all the software that's submitted goes through these checks to make sure the software passes its tests, that it's reliable. So they are looking after that system. And then around the core team, supporting the core team, we have groups of volunteers who are giving input into the project. So we have a technical advisory board giving input on the technical strategy and needs. We also have a community advisory board, and this was set up or co-founded by Aideen Culhane. So she leads the group that I'm part of. So she's based at University of Limerick, and she set that up in 2020, co-founded it with Matt Ritchie from Australia to enable the community to give input into community needs of the project, like where should they be doing outreach, what should they be providing, trainings, etc. And then there's also a scientific advisory board of experts that gives input into directory. And then we have a whole bunch of working groups and committees that, again, anyone in the community can volunteer to be part of to support and give input into direction of the project. And a bit more detail on what actually is Bioconductor. So this is a screenshot of the website showing these are the packages, the software packages. There's different categories. So on the website you can see, who the maintainer is and a bit about what the package is used for. This is a ranking just by downloads. So these packages are used for a whole range of methods around processing biological data. And these methods are mainly in R, but people do write them in other languages as well. The underlying methods can be in C, C++, Fortran. And a major strength of Bioconductor and of R is it enables nice visualizations. So researchers can use the software to make good figures for their papers or for explaining their results. And an important thing about Bioconductor is that it's seen as very reliable and trustworthy software. And that's building on things I mentioned that were started in the beginning, like it's got the version control. There's a review process, so when somebody wants to submit their package into Bioconductor, there's automated checks that are run, and then there's actually a human reviewer who will go through the code and give feedback on if there's things that need to be changed. And the software then goes through these daily builds and checks to make sure that they're working, and any issues are reported back to developers. This is a screenshot of the build reports. So this is actually publicly available, so anyone can see, I'm having an issue with this package. See, is it actually erroring here in the reports? And developers can check out as well and see how their packages are performing. And all packages have to have as well documentation and a vignette. So this is a key feature of Bioconductor. So documentation, like that's your help, your man pages, but also this vignette is like a mini tutorial. So how is a user supposed to use your package? Give them some guidance so they're not, wasting time trying to figure it out. And so Bioconductor had we hear a lot about FAIR these days, making things findable, accessible, interoperable, reusable. And Bioconductor had a lot of these principles from the beginning. And so this has led to the software being respected and trusted, and people want to get their software in there because it is like a mark of being good, reliable software. So there's also releases twice a year, and this means that developers have the opportunity to add in new packages or to add new features to their packages. So this is a screenshot showing the most recent releases and numbers of packages, and this makes sure that it's keeping up with the evolving field of biological research. And just a small note here that, like I mentioned, if packages are erroring, the developers do get notified. If they continue to error and if they're unmaintained, packages can actually get deprecated out of the repository. The idea being, don't want users to be wasting time using software that's not working. So, yeah, it's reliable. a bit more on the documentation and training. So these are the different types of documentation and supports for users that are available. So there's the helps, the vignettes, the workflows. There's longer form books that go into more detail of how to use packages. And then there's also in-person and online workshops and courses. And there's a new training paper preprint that's out there that has it's like a reference guide for using for the different training resources that are available. And it's this large community that is making all this happen, like developing these packages, writing these trainings. This is a screenshot showing an image of users of Bioconductor around the world. And this screenshot on the right is showing packages submitted into Bioconductor over time on the X, and then numbers of packages. So we're now at over 2,000 packages. And this community, largely driven to it being open source and anyone able to contribute, and they do a lot of knowledge sharing. So there's a number of community forums for users and developers. So this is a screenshot of Bioconductor has its own support site, where it's like Stack Overflow, if you're familiar with that. So people using the packages can ask questions, get answers. There's actually a tag for the package name, which notifies the developer that there's a question on their package, and it gets a lot of activity. It's a widely used forum, so that's for users. We also have then there's the developers mailing list, so they can communicate, ask questions on that about developing their package or if they're having issues. And then we have a Slack channel, or Slack group as well, which is used for things like the working groups and general announcements. And then people can use the GitHub issues as well for individual packages if they want to report bugs. And as well, as part of this community and knowledge sharing, we have 3 annual conferences. These were the ones we had last year. So there's one in North America. It's in New York this year. European one was Oxford last year, Barcelona this year, and Australasian at the end of the year was in Sydney in November. And this screenshot is some of the numbers of one of the conference. So we usually get in the 100 to 200 attendees. And there's lots of trainings and workshops as part of these conferences, again, to help with the knowledge sharing. And I wanted to, was asked to speak a bit about the funding we get. So we have been lucky enough to get some philanthropic funding from CZI, Chan Zuckerberg Initiative. So this has helped to support the community work, because it's difficult to get funding for community work, and when you have big communities like this, you need to be able to support it. So Bioconductor groups have been successful in getting some of these CZI, EOSS. So EOSS is Essential Open Source Software. That has been a great program that CZI have been running for a number of years. Since 2020, Bioconductor has been successful in getting 12 projects funded through those 6 cycles, and 5 projects in the most recent cycle. So I'll mention those in a moment. And this map is showing the location of the Bioconductor PIs and collaborators funded in this most recent cycle of grants. So I just wanted to speak a bit about some of the work we've been doing in Ireland. Claire asked me to highlight, our role based in Ireland, what we've been doing as part of this project. So my role, I'm the first community manager for Bioconductor, so hired thanks to the CZI funding in 2022. And one of the projects that I was tasked with out of that grant was to lead the project to redevelop the Bioconductor website. So this top screenshot is how it looked when I joined. Like it was described as basically looking like an internal database or a pile of man pages. It wasn't that friendly. But that's because the funding was going into the build system and supporting the team. They're keeping that going. So there was no spare funds for web designers or anything like that. but what we needed to do was to make it more welcoming for new users. We get a lot of like wet lab people now who are doing experiments, generating data, and who want to be able to analyze their own data. So they want to then learn how to use Bioconductor software. That top is not very friendly. So we redesigned the main pages to make it more accessible for new users and also users with disabilities, because the original website was not colorblind friendly and not usable by screen readers. We did a large community survey. We got great input. Over 500 people gave us feedback. And I set up a working group. So we had volunteers from the community then give us input on what we need, what we should do with this website redesign. And I just wanted to shout out to, it was Nearform, actually, the Irish company who we worked with on the website design. So they were great to work with. And one of the reasons we were so thrilled to work with them was because of their open source connection. And then this is just what we did with it. So the new design, this table is showing how it increased, some metrics on how it increased the accessibility, and also some quotes from a feedback survey we did after we launched the new design. So people saying that they were thrilled that it was now accessible to screen readers and more friendly for colorblind individuals. And another program then I was involved with leading out of that first grant was around training. So we got funds to certify community members in becoming carpentry certified. So carpentries are a global organization that teaches foundational analysis skills to researchers. So that can be R, Python, Unix. So we trained over 2 years, 30 instructors around the world, dots on this map. And we've held workshops in North America, Europe, Asia, to well over that number there. And this is a quote from one of the instructors in that program, saying how they were from Brazil and they were able to go and teach how to use Bioconductor packages back to their community where they were from in the Brazilian Amazon rainforest. So, and this is exactly what we were aiming to do, to try to support communities around the world where we hadn't been able to support as much before. So, yeah, and they'd gone on to do other workshops as well. So we're trying to help community members to support their communities. And this is the final slide I have on. So the new grants that we have now supporting Bioconductor from the most recent CCI cycle, number 6. We've got these 2 grants, so they're being led by myself and Aideen, so at a University of Limerick. So one of them is building on that carpentries training program. So, and this, showing the collaborators we have involved, because something that came out of the initial work was we had trained some instructors in Africa, and then we also had requests from people in Africa for in-person courses in Bioconductor there in Africa, because we'd never done that. So we're now organising our very first in-person course in Africa in March. So I'm organising that at the moment. It'll be a week-long course teaching mainly wet lab biologists how to learn how to use R and how to analyse RNA sequencing data, so analysing biological data. And then our second grant is around supporting the Bioconductor developers. So we have funds to set up a champions program to highlight and acknowledge emerging leaders in the community and give them support in leading some of these working groups, because at the moment they're doing it, with just off their own bat as volunteers with no training or any funds. And we'll also be building on that website design, so improving the search and making the documentation more accessible, so developers can more easily access all the Bioconductor documentation and use it with AI, LLMs, etc. So that's some of the work we're doing, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions, and I've left my details here, and yeah, feel free to join us or share this. Thank you very much. I haven't, no. Okay, thank you. I've never actually been to use R, so.
It's great.
I heard. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, Maria. That was very interesting. I think you mentioned that you've got about 2,000 packages in the repository right now. There must be a lot of there must be some duplication in those packages. How do you manage that process? Is it a kind of a free-for-all, or do you intervene?
So the packages would go through the reviewers. I'm not actually a reviewer, but they do allow packages in, but they have to have a justification now, like that's a newer development on like why should their package be used, why is it needed? So in the past they have allowed, they don't want to be the police of saying, we're not going to let your package in because there's already one like that, because who knows, that package may stop being maintained and then this one may become more used. So that's the thinking at the moment.
Yeah, I'm just interested in this sort of fostering of collaboration aspect of this. I'm just wondering, I suppose, in this community, what's the incentives for the developers to first contribute and then maintain the packages? And I could extend that to say, what's the incentives for the funders to then fund those groups as they grow?
So what's the incentive for developers to submit to Bioconductor?
Yeah, and then continue to, yeah.
Well, one would be that like badge of respect, I guess. So if they want to publish on their package, like publish a paper on their package, it looks good to reviewers, if their package has already gone into Bioconductor, because somebody has already then checked the code, reviewed the code, so it can make it easier to get published. So that would be one reason. Another is to get more use out of their packages, because if users are using other Bioconductor packages and then they see, I need one for XYZ, and they'll look in Bioconductor to see if one exists. Because if you find a package on GitHub, you just don't know how well is it being maintained or how much can you rely on it if only that developer or only their group have looked at it. So that would be some reasons why. And then also this exchange. I've been told like people volunteer for some of these working groups and boards because they want to learn from other experienced developers as well. And then your question was about the funders. What's the funding?
Yeah, and then, so I suppose that's how it's kind of grown from scratch and built, and now it's really big. Obviously, the funders are now contributing a lot to that. So I wonder, what's the secret sauce for getting the funders to pay for these open source projects?
Good question. Like CZI have been great, but they've been kind of unique with how much they have funded and how well they have funded open source software. And from their point of view, I think they just saw a gap, saw the software is needed, have their own links to software, so can understand the importance of it. Yeah, what is the yeah? Okay.
So from a research funding perspective, openness in terms of open source, open data, open science is in a lot of contexts now it's actually mandated. So it forms part of their funding policy. So I can understand how that might be somewhat different in a private funding landscape, but in the public research funding landscape, a lot of the time it's mandated now as part of funding policies.
While we're waiting for everybody to decide which track they're going, I think we have time for one more question. Yes.
I think it might be related to the industry investment, and of course, CZI, for example, is now moving into not fully committing to the OS, and they're trying to bring in other funders. So we have to also be careful of the funding landscape right now from the US. Is there any plan from Bioconductor to think about revenue generation and working with companies, for example?
with companies. Yes,
Companies who are already using it, you know, they should just invest back in Bioconductor, for example.
yes, they would love that. So there's internal discussions in the project about, you know, how can they make that happen. They just have to, I guess, be careful as well that they don't become, that the company doesn't then become the driver of where the project is going. So they need to be able to balance the needs of the community and also what industry needs. But there are industry people, say, even on the boards. So the technical advisory board has got people from industry on it. So yeah, it's.
Brilliant. Thanks
Thank
a
you.
million.